Ladies and gentlemen, YouTube, football nerds out there, today is going to be a good day. I'm joined here by my man, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com.
What's up?
What's up, man? Thanks
long
for coming.
Time coming.
Oh,
long time coming.
It's been a long time coming. Basically, I wanted to do this video for, I think, 3, 4, 5 years.
It's been a while, yeah.
It has been a long time. But finally, we're here. This is going to be completely uncut. Now, normally when we do uncuts, we try to stay around 10 minutes. We always go over time.
Sure.
There's no time limit on this. It can be anything from 20 minutes to I don't know how long. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. This might be a feature film. Part 1.
Who knows? The Lord of the Rings, we're coming for you. But seriously, we're just here to talk about whatever pops into our head. But we're going to start off with a debate that you saw on the thumbnail. But I think that also a lot of people want to know which brand is better at the moment. Is it Adidas or is it Nike?
Like the clear 1-2, I think. I don't think anyone's going to argue that these aren't the top 2 right
No,
now.
and I think, a lot of the smaller brands have been improving especially over the last couple of years.
Sure, for sure.
Puma have been pushing hard. New Balance have come back really.
Yes.
After being really left in the dark. And Under Armour doing good stuff. Mizuno, Mizuno, they're always doing amazing stuff. But it's really about the big 2.
No, for sure. Most popular, for sure.
I mean, where do we even begin here? We could start off by talking about the boots, but if you had a gun to your head, what would you choose?
Right now, straight up, brutally honest, Nike.
Okay.
And I think what a lot of people historically have done, and what these two brands historically basically have done in regards to the boots they make, is they've almost been competing against each other line for line. Speed boot, power boot, control boot, whatever you have. I don't feel like they're doing that quite as much anymore. I really feel like these are two brands, while you have to compare them because they're the two most popular and obviously they're making the same kind of product, they're drastically different. The Mercurial is really nothing like Adidas is currently producing. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
I would definitely say yeah. I mean, I would kind of say that we're talking about they're appealing to the same segments.
Sure.
If the X and the Mercurial is both made for the player looking for a lightweight, tight-fitting boot with a close sensation on the ball. But the boots
achieve that in drastically different ways.
Absolutely, and the funny thing is that they're both very good boots. And that's the funny thing here. Adi have gone a lot for the laceless options. Nike have kind of stuck with their laces and really, focused on their Flyknit game.
Yeah.
So I really agree that it's two different approaches now. Instead of the brands like in 2014, just making the same stuff.
Yes.
In different variations, and I really like that a lot. But it's also fun to see how Nike have really sworn to their, Flyknit. After we saw Flyknit, burst onto the scene in 2014, we actually also got Adi. They had their Primeknit boots.
It looks like they're kind of getting away from it a little bit. But credit to Nike, they started what I think you could call a modern football boot revolution. Those two, the Magista Ober 1 and the Superfly 1, completely changed the game. And fair play to Nike in that, yes, they have a lot of Flyknit boots now, but they all offer a drastically different experience. And I think there's been a serious amount of evolution since 2014 where they've legitimately gotten better.
I would definitely agree with that. I think that somehow, I'm excited to see what's next for Nike, because it seems like since 2014, we haven't really had that big, of course, it's one of the biggest revolutions, one of the milestones of football boots. But it's just, I was expecting something with the Phantom Visions where that completely blew me away. It was a World Cup year, all that stuff. I know it came out after the World Cup.
Yes.
But you just expect this 4-year cycle to bring out something mind-blowingly insane. And maybe Flyknit was, I've just been thinking, maybe Flyknit was too big of a deal. Like, was it too revolutionary of a thing for anyone to be able to follow that? Do you know what I mean?
It's one of those things where I think before, let's go back 15 years. How did you find out about the new boots? You had to go to a store, which most people didn't have a store near them. You had to buy the magazines.
That's true, yeah.
And maybe you'd see the odd commercial. Now everything's in your face all the time. The new releases are constant. So while 4 years is technically a long time, what was the last major revolution before 2014? Because nothing pops into my head as like...
That would have been...
the original Predator, the Vapor 1.
I would say, yeah, we're back. I would also say maybe the Adi Zeros. Like kind
I
of
guess 2010, right? But then again, that's I guess that's 4-year gap.
but still, I mean, it's just like so much more has happened from 2014 to 18 than happened between 10 and 14.
Sure.
And I would say, you know, apart from a few bright years between 10 and 14, the latter 4 years have been so much better. We haven't had the lapses in concentration, if you can call that. Some really, you know, some uncharacteristically bad releases from Adi and Nike.
Sure.
That we saw in you know, with the Superflies, the 1, 2, and 3s, that we saw with some of the F50s and all that stuff. It's like...
But I also don't like to see change for the sake of change. I think Nike's done a good job at introducing Flyknit as a flagship technology and evolving it at a pace that makes sense. Because Nike's running on a longer cycle than Adidas is. Adidas is like releasing new boots every 6 to 9 months. You're getting a brand new model. Nike has stayed more on the 2-year cycle, and we've seen logical progression. I don't want to see them get to the point where they're just coming out with new models that legitimately aren't better. And I think that's what Nike has done very well, is every time they come out with something new, it is better in some way. Sure. And of course, everyone's going to have their opinion.
Yeah.
But I think there's logical progression, which is what I want to see with new releases.
But the thing about like you say that they made Flyknit a flagship thing, and I totally agree with you, but I know you love the Legend 7s.
Yes.
For me, the Legend 7 is a bit of it's a funny one because, you know, it's a very good boot. I enjoy it a lot.
Yes.
But is there a point of having Flyknit apart from just having Flyknit for the sake of it? If you know what I mean?
It is. No, the Flyknit aspect, I think the tongue is great. Don't get me wrong. But it could have been another material, and it probably would have been about the same. The Flyknit on the side,
doesn't really
honestly,
matter.
you wouldn't be able to tell if it was Flyknit or anything else.
And the thing is that the Pro is just as good.
The Pro is 95% of what you get with the Elite. The thing with this Legend in particular, because I know the Tiempo has kind of always stood for the modern take on a classic boot.
Yeah.
I don't know where they go from here, and I'm a little bit nervous about what Legend 8 might be.
Yeah.
I hope they don't add a collar. That would be, I think, a bit of a shame. But seeing what they did with that makes me very, very worried. And again, people don't view it as like a very high-tech boot, but this has more going on than I think any other high-end boot right now. Like if you like list out everything, you have kangaroo leather, internal cage, the internal system here on the front. You have the Flywire, the Flyknit. It's a list of tech specs that's just almost endless, but it does work.
And you agree, it does work. I mean, but for everything that's in it, you don't really feel that it is, you know, a modern. The Phantom Visions feel more like a modern boot. Yes, you do have the fit mesh in here.
Sure.
That you know, the whole like Chinese strap thing that stretches when you apply pressure and all that stuff. But it doesn't feel like stuffed to the brim with modern technology.
No, it
Just
doesn't.
works.
It works really well.
But I agree with you. Like, where do they go?
No, where do they go from there?
And even when they released this, I was afraid they were going to do a colored version because that would mean, to me, the end of the Tiempo as we know it.
You know what's a fair way to settle this? Let's go boot for boot.
Okay.
So if you go just one by one. So if we start at speed, are you picking a Mercurial or are you picking an X? Whether it's the laceless boot, whether it's the regular one, what are you picking?
Honestly, in the end, I would probably pick the Mercurial. But for me, I would be just as happy to wear the X as I would Mercurial. And I basically, you know, playing-wise, I would say it's 50-50 of what I use.
Yeah.
What about you?
See, I think the Mercurial is technically the more impressive boot. I really like what they did. I think when you're talking about pure performance characteristics, between the way that it fits, the responsiveness, the anatomic sole plate, and definitely the more aggressive traction, I don't think there's any arguing about that. It's technically a better boot, but I find this more comfortable. I'd rather play in the X just because it's softer. It reminds me a lot. It's the closest thing to that 2014 F50 since that boot came out 4 years ago.
But still, it feels more stable and balanced than the boot did back then.
I find it comfortable. I like it. I think it's a cool looking boot. That would be my pick. Again, it's a style of boot that I personally don't really go for that much, but I'd be perfectly happy to wear both, just like you said. But if I had to pick, That's the one I'd
It
go
just
for.
strikes me that this obviously everyone can wear every boot out there,
Sure.
and it both have basically become more accessible to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that this still is a bit more of a hardcore speed boot, whereas this with the slightly wider fit and it's not as restrictive in that sense. It is maybe a little bit more, should we say, it has a bit more of a common approach. However you say
Well,
it.
here's the thing about Adidas as a brand. We view this as just less interesting. This is an all new thing. There has not been a Mercurial like that. Where this is like, here's a variation of the sprint frame that we saw in 2010.
Yep.
And here's an upper that's kind of like what we did in 2014.
But it's laceless.
Now there's a laceless one, which, to be fair, these are two very different uppers. I don't notice that much of a difference.
Well, I actually think that this upper is better because it's softer.
I do like this one more.
And I know there's the skeletal weave or whatever they call it, and it's a nice idea by actually having really strong material to minimize
Yes.
the thickness. But it just, for me, it just doesn't. It's fun.
It has to fit you properly, and if it doesn't
exactly.
fit you exactly right, it's not going to offer the same experience as the 18.1.
No, exactly. It looks hella cool.
It does look cool.
But
I will
that's
say
just,
that.
it's a matter of preference. But to be fair, I would call this a tie.
I think that's fair.
For me, we're talking about two of the best boots on the market, so it's really difficult.
Sure.
Okay, so talking about control, Predator versus which one should we take? The Phantom Vision?
I think Phantom Vision's the logical comparison.
Yeah,
to be fair.
and they're actually, actually they're two pretty different boots. Both when we talk construction, but also when we talk what they're made for. Obviously, the kind of player they're made for doesn't really dictate that you should wear them, but it's just always a nice way to put things up against
The
each other.
marketing is the main reason, I think, why people compare certain boots,
Yes.
for sure.
Now, I would say that for me personally, I would actually prefer the Predator because of the way they fit me, and if I could go with laces, they would simply give me a more, should we say, holistically satisfying fit and a more natural touch in the boot.
Sure, it's by far the more simple boot of these two. I guess similar to comparing the X to the Mercurial. This is their best prime knit upper they've ever done. I don't think there's any question about that. The laceless thing, I have my opinions on that. I'm sure you have your opinions. I think the 18.1 is probably the version to get. The fact that it's a lot less expensive,
You
I
gotta
think helps
appreciate
as
the
well.
lockdown in this is a lot better than it's been previously.
Hugely, way more comfortable than I think the A17 plus Pure Control was. That was just way too stiff. This feels a lot nicer than that. I still am not a huge fan, and we've talked about this already, of the sole plate and stud pattern on the Predator platform as a whole. But you seem to really like the sturdiness of it.
Yeah, I enjoyed the stability of the plate, and I like the different. I think you can feel when you're basically twisting in the ground it's not as aggressive, but you still get some sort of digging in.
Yes,
and I really like that. The safety and it's kind of a solid base for me, and I really prefer that when I play. And also, of course, this might not have as many elements as the Phantom Vision. We can get back to that.
By far, it's way more simple.
But it's still a very technically advanced boot because of the way they worked with the prime knit and kind of vacuum pressed it into the 3D ridges.
Well, something a lot of people don't realize is that the Plus and the .1 are not exactly the same. This is using forge knit through the midfoot, which is a completely different structure system / material. So for those of you that ask, can I buy the Predator 18.1 and just pull the laces out and wear them like that? Sure, you can.
But it's not going to be the same.
But RIP to your ankles.
But I like this boot. I like the paddedness. Somehow, to me, the 18 Plus feels a little bit more padded than on the toe box than the ones. But if I could throw laces on this, I would be a happy camper.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a solid boot. I mean, elephant in the room, it's a Predator, but is it really a Predator? That's debatable.
Yeah, I think,
it's a modern Predator. It's definitely I think this is what the boot market has trended towards, and this would do much better now than if you took any classic Predator and released it as a mainstream boot. I don't think people want bulky, big, heavy rubber elements anymore.
That's the thing. I mean, if Predator has always been the kind of the thing for progression.
Sure.
It's a progressive boot. It's a boot that kind of tries to push the limits. And I feel that if this is what, the market has come to these days, it has a color, it's laceless, you do get some sort of grip elements, if we can call them that, some sort of friction on the ball.
Sure.
And you do get that one-to-one sensation with the ball. If that's what the market has come to, well, for me, I can easily accept this as a Predator, as long as it focuses on friction, on control, and on having that punchy sensation when you connect with the ball. On the other hand, I do appreciate it's not leather, it doesn't have a tongue, but should we just, should Predator and the Predator wasn't afraid to go out of its way and do things differently.
Yes.
Why should it be afraid to go away? Like should it stay just like classic? You know what I mean?
No, we talked about progression, and this is progression based on what the market is demanding right now and what's done well in the last several years.
And I feel it's actually a bold move from Adi because they know
huge.
it might not necessarily. They could easily do the old Predators, but that wouldn't be Predator because it would be playing it safe.
Sure.
And Predator isn't playing it safe.
Sure.
So you might agree or disagree, but for me, it's not my favorite boot, but I like that they try something new and they're not afraid to just give it a go.
I agree. What I will say is, let's say Predator 19 plus or 19.1. Let's get some LZ Predator elements on this thing. That would be sweet.
I'm gonna go on a limb here and seeing how the other boots have progressed.
Yeah.
The update of this is gonna look a lot like it.
I think that's
probably cool. The Nemeziz small facelift, X small facelift, but let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. And then if we are comparing these two, I think this is a better looking boot. No question. I think the Predator right now is one of the best looking boots on the market.
The silhouette is
it's great, especially in this colorway.
Oh yeah, but basically no matter which colorway you slap on the Predator, there's no going wrong.
No, it's a clean design.
Yeah,
best looking collar in the game too.
But with that said, I know what you're gonna say. You like the visual part of it. But I'm guessing you like the...
I would much rather wear the Phantom Vision.
Okay.
And this is a boot that it's the latest and greatest thing in the industry right now. And in a lot of ways, while I guess on paper they kind of compare really well, they're almost opposite in regards to how they feel. Like that's a lot more solid sole plate, not super aggressive traction. This is much more aggressive traction and a much more flexible sole plate. Do you think this feels thinner than that?
It feels thinner, yes, but I also feel it doesn't feel as tight as the Predator.
It doesn't. It definitely has a little bit more width through the toe box and forefoot area. And I guess technically, because it is 2 layers of material between the Flyknit and the quad fit, I think technically this is actually a little bit thicker. But based on the materials used, it ends up feeling thinner for some reason.
Maybe it's also because there's foam in this, and foam gives you that slightly spongy padded sensation.
Entirely
and there's no foam because of quad fit and the fact that it's so strong that they don't need the liner to add the strength.
But the quad fit thing is really what has impressed me with this boot because it does seem like kind of a gimmicky thing. And in Nike's press release, maybe you know a little bit more, they talked about this initially going to be a laceless model.
Yes.
But from feedback from the pros that they had wear testing this boot for, I don't know how long. There were leaked pictures, or not leaked pictures, but spy shots of pros wearing blacked out versions for, I don't know, it seemed like it was 2 years almost. And apparently the feedback they got is that without the laces, the fit was not the same. So that's why they incorporated those laces.
But could you imagine, now, there's always been talking about how Adi have, like, over the years, done the same things as Nike. They've always been following.
Yes.
Could you imagine Nike making a laceless boot, honestly?
I can't. I would be very, very surprised if they did. So the fact that they even... I think they kind of said that almost more as an indirect shot, if I'm being honest with you.
We wanted to do it, but it didn't work, so we did this instead.
We decided it's just not very good.
Yeah.
So... But this is something that's really impressed me because I kind of half expected something similar to the Obra 2. I'm sure you were kind of expecting a logical progression to that as well.
And I was happy that it wasn't.
But it's not. It's something that's its own unique thing. It fits really well. I find it very comfortable. Obviously, fit's going to vary from person to person.
Yep.
I like the added grip. That's something that I don't think a lot of people will realize on this boot until they hold it in their hands. Is how heavily, like, honestly, you almost feel like you could cut yourself if you rubbed your hand long enough, like it would rub off.
It's a bit like sandpaper, right?
It really is quite rough. And the amount of grip you get, I wouldn't say is crazy.
No, but you get more grip in the Visions than in the Predator.
For sure.
And then from there on, it's kind of like, do you like it more padded? Then it's probably the Predator you should go for. I would say you get a more, not barefoot-like feel, but you feel the ball a little sharper, more crisp on that.
Yeah.
There's more grip. I don't know which upper is softer, honestly.
That to me, I think, is probably a little softer.
Yeah.
But again, it has a padded, this doesn't have the padded sensation of that.
But let's call this one a tie. I would probably go with the Pred. You would go with the Visions.
Phantom Vision, so
solid boots.
1 and 1. So we're pretty much 2-2, right? Across the board.
Yep. Which is next? Tiempo versus Copa? I'm gonna be really brief here. I would choose the Tiempo Legend 7 Elites every day of the week.
I would too, but that's not to hate on the Copa 18.1.
I want to hate a little bit on it.
I do think it's a legit good boot. But there are too many things about it that are a little bit annoying, like this tongue, for example. And granted, this is over the 17.1 with that internal system, or when you put them on and it bunched up on the side of your feet. This is hugely improved, but they needed to get rid of this. This is just, quite frankly, ugly. Not a fan of that. And then the fact that they made this like worn out sweatpants material look. I mean, again, everyone's gonna have their opinion on that.
What were you thinking?
But I like, even this is thinner.
Yep.
I kind of like the more padded feel of the Legend.
And
this sprint frame base is great. I mean, they just pulled it off the Ace.
It's not a bad boot. And the thing is that, you know, you can even see that this is still, it's soft leather, but as you can see, I've kind of left a boot on top of it. And it's not very nice of me, but it kind of, you know, the leather is stiff enough that it keeps that shape. It's not like the Legend. I feel the Legend is a little softer.
It is a better quality material for
exactly.
sure.
And what I don't like is this, that it basically feels like they took the A17 in leather and then they just turned it into a Copa.
Pretty much. It's not a particularly original boot based on what they've been doing.
And for what they want it to be, I understand where they want to go with the Copa, but the execution is not a bad boot. It's just a little bit, meh.
It's subpar considering what Nike's doing with that Tiempo right now.
Looking at what Nike are doing with the Tiempo and what Puma are putting out with the Puma 1s,
yes,
I think that this is something Adi really need to address.
You know what? This isn't far enough in either direction of classic or modern. It's just stuck somewhere in the middle, and the classic guys aren't going to like the way it looks, and the guys who want modern stuff, that's more high tech.
Exactly.
So why would you pick this?
And quite frankly, you know, no matter if you're into classic heritage Copa Mundial style boots or into modern techie, it's just a better boot. I would just say that the Tiempo wins this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Agility, Nemeziz, Hypervenom?
This is a tricky one because this is technically brand new, but it's barely brand new.
But then again, I would actually argue that, you know, they're almost the same age, but this has so many updates compared to the OG Nemeziz that I would consider it new enough.
Oh, definitely, especially the laceless one, because I think that if you're talking about the 17 plus versus the 18 plus, I don't care for laceless boots. That's pretty well known on this channel and my channel, any channel. We don't even know what channel we're talking about anymore. But if I were to pick a laceless boot right now, and I'm kind of curious of your answer to that question, this would be it. This is the one that seems to work with me the best.
Yep, I would agree. I would actually also go for this. This is the boot that gives you the best lockdown. As you may know, I'm a big fan of lockdown. I need my lockdown, and this is the one that gives me the most simply because they put the foam underneath.
There's something there to prevent this elasticated part from overstretching, and that's the issue.
And some way it also leaves less room inside the boot, which means that I fill out the boot more and I slide around less inside of it. And I do appreciate the Nemeziz. For me, it's a bit of a weird concept because it kind of wants to do what the X does and then kind of doesn't, and it's like...
The thing about the Nemeziz that I guess from the beginning, I don't want to say disappointed because I think that the 17.1s and the 18.1s, both generations have been good boots. But you look at the design and it seems like such a cool... It's very extreme to do the bands all the way across the foot, and it kind of does make sense, like logically when you just look at it. But when you actually put them on, there's nothing about the way that this looks that translates into the feel, I find.
I would agree with that. And that's probably because, you know, a material is only as stretchy and as soft as the stiffest, you know, part of the material. So if you get a liner that's not very stretchy, well, you might have all the elasticated tapes in the world, but out here, because of the silicone coating, it doesn't do much. I think you gotta give it to Adi that they definitely improved the Nemeziz with the 18 pluses and also on the 18.1s.
It is. They addressed a lot of the issues and I think made them a little bit more premium. This is not its agility weave now rather than agility in a 2.0. It's a little thicker, a little bit more padded. It's almost borderline prime knit. If we're being honest with ourselves.
I think it's really soft, actually. That's what I didn't like about the other one. Because I have so small feet, I didn't get a lot of knit
Yeah.
So it was really stiff and it took a long time to break in. Whereas this was soft.
No, this feels a
from the
lot
get-go.
better out of the box. For
I
sure.
like the plate a lot. What I do like even more is, let me see if I can find. You can just keep talking. I'm gonna find the. Where are they?
Hey guys.
There we go.
I'm running the Unisport channel now. Anyways, tell me if you agree. I know this is technically FGAG.
Yep.
I don't like using this sole plate and stud pattern on artificial grass.
No.
For some reason, stud pressure is not a common thing for me to get, but I do find that these two studs in particular, when I wear these on AG, it doesn't work out for me that well.
But let's be honest. This is an FG outsole.
It really is.
And they've just, I think it's called FGAG, so it also, you can cover it on the warranty. So you can use it on AG. It's probably been improved a little bit, in terms of durability, but the studs are simply too few and too long to really be a proper AG plate.
Sure.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But I agree. I will say that, if we're comparing Hypervenom to Nemeziz, I'd rather compare it to this because this is the best Nemeziz.
That's the best variation of the Nemeziz, current generation and ever, in my opinion.
Yes. Best outsole, most aggressive studs. It's very well balanced. And I like the low cut. You get the laces and a soft toe box. It's pretty responsive. And, it's an all-round nice boot. But comparing it to the Hypervenom, it's a bit of a different animal because...
It's a really tough comparison. Like, again, similar marketing, totally different final product. What I do like about the Hypervenom is I still think, again, it's kind of lost the hype because it's now technically the oldest boot from Nike, no?
Yep.
Tiempo's true. A little bit newer. But it's still one of those boots that I feel like I can put on, especially in the low-cut variation.
Yep.
The fact they give you that option is great, by the way, Nike. We need that for the Phantom Vision. Not going to say it again. But it's still a boot that I put on, and I'm still impressed by how comfortable it is. Like, it just feels really good.
And it does. The thing is that for me, I think Nike have, especially with the introduction of the all-knit Mercurials, this is basically redundant right now because, and I know it might be a bit of a bold claim, because it's basically, what the Hypervenom had going for it was that it was a full flying up, and then you get the foam parts that are nice. It's a nice base when you shoot. But for me, it doesn't really do much.
Disappears. It's something that when you get the boots for the first time, you're aware of it, and maybe you're going to notice it because you're kind of thinking about it. But once that has worn off, do you really ever notice it again?
Not really.
Not quite.
And I like the outsole. I like the way it flexes on the forefoot, and it still has some stiffness in the midfoot. It's one of those outsoles that I think it kind of hits the golden middle of giving you everything.
A little bit of everything. You're right. That's the best way to
It's
put
very
it.
comfortable. You can put it on. You get a nice, clean striking surface. I don't mind the color. It's okay, but I prefer the low cuts.
Sure.
But it's just, why would I go and get this if I can get this?
Well, you know what? I think the weird part about the Hypervenom is that it's kind of become the thickest boot that's not the Tiempo within the Nike lineup. It's thicker and more padded than the Phantom Vision, which I think a lot of people would not expect.
Exactly, yeah. But that's because it has the padding and knit.
Yeah, it's. I think it's very clearly the oldest, I guess, variation of a flying it upper that we have from Nike right now. But that's, again, not to say that it's not good. It just isn't what you get from the Mercurial.
But it's still, it still strikes me how soft it actually is because of the coating, and especially with the new finish here of the new Nike Skin Silicone.
It's a little difference, but it seems to be a little noticeable as well.
Yeah. Somehow it feels, when you break it in, it feels like it softens up quicker and really allows the flying it to be as soft as it can.
Yeah.
It might just be me, but I would say, it's a difficult one. And it's not fair comparing a low-cut boot to a dynamic free-color boot because, it's all about preference.
Okay, but let's just say, if you're picking something from the Nemeziz or something from the Hypervenom line, what would you pick?
I would pick this.
Really?
I would.
See, I would go Hypervenom. I like the Phantom 3 low. I like the Nemeziz. There's just little things that bother me that don't bother me about the Hypervenom.
But that's the thing for me. I could go for the Hypervenom, and I actually like it. I wear it sometimes. But it's just the Nemeziz, for what I wanted to do, I think it excels a little more in the area that it's actually been made for, which is to give you that locked-in, agile feeling. Because when you push off with the Gambit Track sole plate, you feel that springiness a little bit more without having the the stiffness of one directional movement that the Mercurial does.
Yes, for sure. You know what? I think one of the big improvements as well that you wouldn't necessarily know based on looking at them, but when you wear it, it's immediately evident when you're comparing this to any of the 17 generation ones, is they've changed up these agility bandages where I think the elastic tension is a little bit stronger now. So when you wear this, that's the first thing I notice is that it's more structured, not overly stiff, but the responsiveness, I think, has increased tremendously over the previous generation.
And that, for me, is what this boot is all about. I feel the Hypervenoms are nice. The lockdown is really good. But when we're looking at, like the core elements that it's made for, I would probably go with the Nemeziz.
Fair. So
it means that I think Nike are slightly edging it because of the Tiempo compared to the Copa.
Pretty much.
But I actually got to say, I'm surprised at this comparison. I expected you to just completely steamroll Adi with Nike, because it seems like you're not too fond of Adi.
I think what I don't like about the Adidas brand right now is I don't think that it's hard to say that there's not enough variation from line to line, but I think you can put all of these boots on and they all have a very similar feel to them, to some extent.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in regards to touch, but the way that they fit, the way that they feel, mainly because they're all kind of built on variations of the exact same platform. Where Nike, you're getting, yes, 3 variations of Flyknit, but I think they're pretty drastically different, and then the sole plate bases and stud patterns you get is a good amount of variety as well. Same stud pattern with every line. It's getting a little bit old for me. I'd like to see a little something new. Reintroduction of the old Predator TRX stud pattern. I'd like to see that. That'd be cool.
You can go and kill some people.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But we'll see what happens with that in the future. But for me right now, I think Nike not only has solid products, but they offer a little bit of something for everybody, a little bit more so than Adidas does right now.
All right, guys, basically, we've been talking for so long that one of our cameras died and we kind of had to figure out what was going on. I did not expect this debate to go on for so long. So for the sake of not having to, spend all day talking about this, maybe we should just cut it here. What do you say?
I think that's pretty much the end.
This could be part 1 of 200 boot nerd debates, because
you could talk forever about this kind of stuff.
That's the thing, guys. If you want us in the future to meet up again and talk about things like that in depth, really go into boot nerd hardcore Super 3000 mode, you should let us know what to discuss in the comment section right down below, and I promise you we're going to look into doing just that. Now, of course, if you have any questions, comments on which brand is the better one, of course you should let us know in the comment section as well.
I'm always very curious about that.
Which brand is better?
People always have such drastically different opinions.
Of course.
That's very interesting to me.
Why we're going to have a poll, so we can all see right over there. Now, of course, also, if you want to see more of this guy, he has a channel. It's a pretty cool channel. Makes hilarious intros, brilliant content. So if you want to expand on your boot knowledge, go follow Josh or John or whatever he wants to be called today.
It's Jay today.
It's Jay today. Okay. I understand that is a beautiful name. By clicking the subscribe button on the screen right here. Now, if you're not a fan of Unisport or not a subscriber of Unisport, you can also go follow our channel for all, the videos where we talk to the stars. We look at the new boots. You can learn new tricks. Click the subscribe button over my head. And finally, if you want a pair of new Nike or Adidas boots, you can find them by clicking the link on your screen right now. Go to unisportstore.com and absolutely go nuts. And with that said, guys, I'm out of breath. So we're going to take a breather. But see you next time. We're signing off. Cheerio.
See ya.